Yep. Well, I think a couple of videos ago I said to you that I had gone to the gallery with my haircut half finished. It's improved now. It's 5/8 finished. Next time you see me, it'll be 3/4 finished. I'm very slow with that kind of thing. Well, there goes my chair again, sinking down. I don't know what's up with this chair. I guess its life is probably over. Okay, so when I was trained to make one painting at a time, not to come up with different ideas, and not to be tempted to mass produce, so to speak. Also, I think it's a good point of discipline for a beginner to focus on one at a time. But I think the whole point of that is indeed to develop discipline, which is actually underrated when it comes to painting. I know a lot of you just paint for the fun of it, and that's okay. But for myself, I needed that kind of discipline because I am a little bit ADD, I suppose. My chair is going down again. I'm not going to worry about it. That just leads me to really say that the painting that I was working on in the last video, I'm very happy with it, but it still needed a bit of work in a couple of areas. And I know technically what to do, but a technically well-finished painting isn't still as good as you could make it. I'd rather, even though it's on the edges of a painting, which is what it is, which is where the issues lie on this painting, I'd like to make sure that I make the right strokes. It's only going to take a few strokes, but they have to be the right ones. And honestly, I just got sick of looking at it. I had another idea in my head for this one, and I thought, I just want to move on to a bigger painting again. So the last painting, The Hideaway, in the autumn bush, that's upstairs right now. It can dry, that's fine. It's I'll get to it when I get to it. So that brings us to this. I gotta raise my chair. This is silly. I had some yellow ochre, a little bit of burnt sienna on my palette, so of course I scraped that off and laid it on the canvas in places. Didn't have enough, so I took some yellow ochre out of a tube and a little more burnt sienna out of a tube. And I'm going to also put in some ultramarine in places. I have some ultramarine blue that I'm not thrilled with. But in general, I'd like this canvas to be sort of green-ish. Not really cold, but definitely quite dark. I'm being generous with my paint because I want the canvas to be, I want the tint to be quite opaque. It's my intention so far is to paint a view on the west side of DeCourcy Island. It's one of the southern Gulf Islands off the coast of British Columbia and Canada. There's one area there. I have a friend who has a cabin on DeCourcy Island. It's a beautiful island, and to go around the island in my boat was stunning. I did this years ago, and I've painted this view or renditions of this view numerous times. But I love it. I'm still in love with it. I haven't looked at it for a long time. I would like to dig up a photo of it actually, but that's going to take a bit of doing. It's not online, so I'll have to look through some boxes to find it. But I want to repaint that. It's just this. It's not a high cliff. It's not a big cliff. It's just a rock face. And on this painting, from here on up, more or less, will be trees. There will be no sky unless it pokes through the trees in the odd place. From here to here will pretty much be all rock structure, strata. That beautiful, stunning, incredible West Coast weather-beaten, wave assaulted stone, you know, the bedrock. And then as we go a little lower, we'll get into the water, and from there on. So we'll see. We'll see how it goes. I was tempted to do a drawing and then wash the drawing in. I don't think that's the best thing for me to do. I think the best thing for me to do is just stain the whole canvas. So that's what I'm doing. Again, foam brush. Made it a little narrower so I can dip into my terps pretty easily. And we'll just start poking away here. Yeah, the stain's going to be fairly dark. That's okay with me. And again, I'm not doing this, I'm doing this, you know, so that this foam brush is almost parallel to the canvas, at least as much as I can think, or as much as possible while I'm staining it. Because if I were to do this with this cheap little dollar store foam brush, the brush would never make it through the whole painting. And in fact, if it doesn't make it through this one, that's fine. I have another one ready to go. But as you can see, we're making things pretty dark already. But a green, a warm green, you know. And the area that I'm going to be painting exists within, well, okay, it's coastal, but it's really, as far as North America goes, it's more or less rainforest. I don't have to worry too much about going down the edges as much, because this is not a wraparound. Okay, it's a wraparound canvas, but it's not a deep canvas. This canvas is built really to have a frame. Make sure, you know, I've just taken the tube of paint in places, or the knife, and just laid it straight paint on the canvas. I want to make sure that while I'm mixing or while I'm laying my paint on here, I'm treating my canvas as though it's actually my palette. And I need to make sure that although I'm mixing my colors on my canvas, just as I would on my palette, these paints, I don't want to leave any raw paint adjacent to the canvas. I want to work it hard enough that we just end up with terps. Otherwise the thing will never dry. Yeah, I like that. It's sort of a warm army green. Yeah, it's very dark. But that is exactly the opacity and the hue, or the value that I'm after for this. So that's a good start. Okay, I'm going to work my way up. I'm going to sit myself back down and see if my chair decides to sink again. Yep, it will. Okay, good thing I'm working way down the painting here. Of course, you know, it's done, my chair has done that the odd time, but not often during a video. Well, I guess I shouldn't be so cheap. I'll just buy another chair. I love these office chairs. The spinny ones on rollers. I don't care if they're adjustable or not, but good luck finding one that's not adjustable. And here's the problem. The weak point is its adjustability, because you end up settling down. Just make a chair that's of a decent decent size, a decent height. And let me use this stupid thing. And don't try to sell me some BS warranty. I bought a chair years ago. It was actually an office stool. Bought it from Staples. Usually the culprit for poor quality stuff. Oh, the poor young cashier. She said, "Would you like to buy an extended warranty?" And it kicks in after a year. And I said, "Honestly, dear, if this chair doesn't last a year, I'm going to drive back up here. I'm going to throw that chair through your front window." Because that's how I feel about this stuff. You know, you're going to pay, granted Staples chairs aren't expensive, but if you're going to pay whatever, just charge me whatever you want. But I want that chair to last for years. I don't want it to last for, I don't want to have to buy some sort of a stupid warranty for an office chair. Oh my goodness. Alright, I might have been a little too generous. I'm doing this at the end of the day because I don't really want to sit in my studio while this dries all night. Yeah, so I'm really looking forward to painting this again. Revisiting, I should say, this scene. Because it's not just a scene, it's a place. I spent time there. I took photographs there. I did a bit of sketching. It was such a beautiful spot. It was very, very typical West Coast British Columbia stuff. And I love a lot of areas, but I think recently I'm missing the ocean a bit. My wife and kids and I spent a few years living on one of the Gulf Islands, Piers Island, very close to the Swartz Bay Ferry Terminal. Nice little island, no stores, no roads that you would drive vehicles on really to speak of. I don't think you were even allowed to unless you got a special permit to drive on it. But there were no paved roads, it was just sort of a gravel trail around the island. The island was about a mile across, about a mile in diameter. And there were, there was water, there was hydro. To get your mail, you had to go back to the mainland. Well, not the mainland. You had to go to Vancouver Island, where your vehicle would be parked. And to get groceries, you'd have to take your boat into town. It was fun. A lot of work, though. We left there really only because our children were getting old enough that they needed to go to school. And also, we had family on the mainland, Abbotsford area, Fraser Valley. And it was kind of Well, it's kind of important for kids to be, if they have the option to do it, they should be around the grandparents. And Jackie's parents were there. Very family-oriented family, so that was our decision. That's what we did. And I'm sure thankful for those couple of years that we spent living on Piers Island. We lived in one house. We moved in with my sister and her husband. And that's when my painting career really was launched, because my sister and her husband afforded me the time and the encouragement to start taking painting seriously. And my wife actually talked to the first gallery that I dealt with, which was Peninsula Gallery in Sydney on Vancouver Island. They agreed that they'd let me in the door if I brought some work with me, and well, I brought work in and they said leave it all here, and immediately sales started and kind of hit the ground running. I'm very blessed that way, very fortunate that way. Anyway, that's enough about me. Let's talk more about me. Anyway, that's that story. But you know, just to say, living on the Gulf Island, amongst the Gulf Islands, and having a boat, and you know, I had the opportunity to go visit so many of these different places when we lived out there. Taking videos wasn't really a thing for us at the time. We'd take a few photographs and do some sketching from the boat. Went out with my wife and children, but I spent a lot of time by myself, just exploring on the boat. And that is definitely a highlight, one of the highlights of my life. Just the ability to go and do that. The freedom, the access to such beauty. I think it's not so easy anymore. Okay. This is very opaque, even though, you know, I have worked through all of the paint, the actual paint out of the tube that's on the canvas, but still heavily laden. You know, I thinned it off with turpentine, or rather paint thinner. It's still pretty thick. It's going to take a bit of drying, but it's Friday night. I probably won't visit it tomorrow. Probably won't see it till after the weekend. I don't know. I don't think so. But I have a vision for that painting, and we'll see how it goes. You know, we've already gotten a little darker down here. This is where the water will be. You know, our cliff, not our cliff, our what, the face of the strata of the bedrock. There's a lot of, a bit of sandstone, maybe you'd say, a lot of basalt in these areas. Beautifully formed by the action of the ocean on the shore. And then, yeah, I don't want sky in here. I don't want to complicate things. I want the focus to be the rocky structure. Yeah. Okay, next time we talk, my haircut will be maybe 3/4, maybe 7/8 done. Anyway, have a good weekend.